says, okay, you waved at me, so sure. So share
All
this
right.
live video, that one?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Well, you wanna click the option to come with me. Click on the camera or the option screens to so you can join this broadcast, and we will get going.
Where is that, Matthew? Where is that?
I don't know. If you don't see it as an option on your screen, look at the icons on the right.
All I have the option to do is to share this video.
Look at the icons or the three dots. Look on the lower right. There's a camera with a plus on it, right next to the
Yes, got
comment
it.
window.
Got it.
Click on that
Thank you.
camera.
Oh, share to. And I want to share it to who?
Or hit the
Facebook,
person. No,
Instagram.
hit the person icon. Maybe that is it. I'm not sure because I've always been the one that's having people join.
Request to be in this live video. Send request.
Yes. And I'm
I
inviting
appreciate
you
you
in.
helping me. I just want to say
No
that.
worries. We're coming at you guys. Thanks for your patience. So you look at your image and make sure it's one that people can see, John. And we will get going on our subject today. Oh, there he is. So put it as close to your computer camera as you can, John, because we're going live on two places. And I will bring us in. Welcome, everybody, back to this Kick-Ass Couples Nation Nooner. It's 12 o'clock high or maybe 1 or 2 minutes after, and we're glad you're joining us today. I have got John Page, LMFT. That LMFT stands for Licensed Marriage Family Therapist. This guy's a guru. In addition to being a guru, he is also a Kick-Ass Couples Nation elite KCN relationship coach who helps clients overcome patterns and roadblocks to living a healthy and dynamic way. He's got over 20 years in the saddle. John, welcome to your first KCN Nooner.
Matthew, thank you for having me. It is a privilege, and I look forward to having a lot of fun talking to you today.
We are going to have fun because it's a great topic. And our topic today is, what do I do if I don't feel valued by my partner? And I don't care if you're in a relationship for a week or if you're in it for a month or years. I think we've all had that thought, John, kind of racing through our head. And if you're joining for the first time and you don't know who I am Matthew P. Hoffman, and I am the CIO, the Chief Inspiration Officer at Kick-Ass Couples Nation. I'm also a relationship coach. And John is a therapist and one of our coaches. And we're diving into, what if I don't feel valued by my partner? We've all felt that way from a spouse, a boyfriend, a girlfriend. And I'm going to share a little opening quote with everybody to kind of set the stage here. You can't just give up on someone because the situation is not ideal. Great relationships are not great because they have no problems. They are great because both people care enough about the other person to find a way to make it work. And if you're married, then you've said to your partner in front of God and everybody, this is my journey for life, come what may. And we do not want to hit the eject button because that's the opposite of commitment. We want to work it out. So, John, the first key point I would like to talk about is, whenever we're worried about what somebody else isn't giving us, I really think it's kind of a great sign to say, let's look inward. Like, let's look at
Sure.
ourselves, because even though someone may have more responsibility, you always have to kind of ask yourself, we talked about this earlier, taking responsibility, right? And you got to say, well, what am I doing or bringing, and what's my role in this? So if a person truly values themselves, they won't be looking externally to be validated. So how do people take a look at how they're valuing themselves and making sure that they're showing up to be their best self in this relationship before we start looking outside of what we're doing ourselves?
Yeah, that's a great question, Matthew. And I think a lot of times what happens to us in life and in relationships is we get to certain points of dissatisfaction. And more often than not, the person that we look at is not the one in the mirror, but the one on the other side of the bed. And it's just a lot easier. It's a lot easier to blame somebody else, especially our most important relationship. It's easier to blame them than to take responsibility and accountability for our own well-being, our own sense of self-worth. And I like to take things back to, why are you in this relationship? Are you in this relationship primarily to get or to give? Am I in this to make sure that my needs are met and make sure that I'm happy and satisfied? Or am I in this to help you and pour into you? You have to decide ahead of time why you're here. What is your goal in this relationship? And if your goal is to better the other person, and by doing so, creating a happy, healthy, engaged, thriving relationship, then you will succeed. If your goal is to make sure that your needs are met because you're not satisfied with your life and you're not happy, well, then you're destined for failure, because you can't place your needs and the responsibility for meeting those needs on somebody else, even your spouse. That's not their job.
Right. So we're getting on Instagram, John. I appreciate that was a thoughtful comment. I'm hearing you come in, but what I need you to do is turn your volume back on your phone or make sure your phone is not muted. You and I are connected via the headphones for the StreamYard, but if you'll turn your volume up and just make sure that your microphone is good on your phone, then people will be able to hear you on that on the Instagram as well. We all set there?
I think so. Can you hear me on Instagram right now? We got me out there?
Yeah, I'm listening to you. So if on Instagram, Kimberly, if you'd let us know, give a thumbs up or that you can hear John on IG. We want to make sure that he's picking you up. So we'll continue. So I think what you're saying, John, is if you're coming to the relationship and you are saying, I got to get my needs met, and is it good for me? Am I getting what I want? Yeah, they say you can't hear, so I'm not sure. John, is your this maybe this is an issue? Is your headphone synced to your computer or your phone?
It's synced to both, and I think it's
Yeah.
competing.
So go ahead and turn your Bluetooth off on your phone, please. There you go.
Is that better?
Yeah.
All right. We're good.
Okay. So all I want to do then, yeah, and then your microphone should be good, but you can go ahead and turn your volume down, I think, on your phone again, and we'll be set, and we'll dive back in here. So people should be able to hear you now because your headset should be coming through your computer, not your phone. Yep. Thanks, Rachel. Appreciate your patience on that. So what does the self-talk sound like coming out of your own mouth, your own words and thoughts of yourself? I think that matters too, John. When someone's thinking about, you said, clear the mindset. What am I bringing to the relationship? Am I looking to fulfill my partner's needs first? Or am I looking to saying, hey, it's all about me and I got to get what I want? I think that's really critical. And then the self-talk and what you're telling yourself is important as well. You know, your own words and thoughts about yourself, that I'm a contributor, I'm committed. You know, in your own mind, you have to value the good that you're bringing. If you're thinking in your own head, I'll never be able to do this, I can't, I'm too much or not enough. If you're coming to the relationship with that attitude about yourself and that you're not bringing value and love and commitment and all the goodness that the other person needs, it's going to show up in how you come into that relationship. Because if you don't believe that the good is there in yourself, how the heck is your partner going to see and believe it? So I think it's important, if you're thinking about your own value, that you're worthy and that you have something to offer and you have something to bring. Because if you come to the relationship with that attitude, that's the positive energy and the input and the feedback that you're going to bring. And a lot of people think they're incapable, they're not good enough, they fall short. And, you know, how can they portray and bring value to their partner? Because if their partner's not feeling valued in what they're bringing, then, you know, it's not a great incentive to make sure that things are working well in the relationship. Hey, John, I'm going to pause you one more time. Your mic is not connected to the computer. It's defaulted back to the phone. So I just want to make sure that your Bluetooth is turned off on your phone. Our StreamYard fans are not hearing you right now, only the Instagram. So let's work on your mic is showing that you're muted and I'm not able to unmute it. only you can do that because it's saying your mic's not connected. And then we will continue, but we want to make sure everybody listening on all the platforms is able to hear the gold that you are dropping. And I think what we're talking about while John's figuring that out and unmuting his mic, and making sure he's connected, we want to make sure everybody gets to hear the good that he's sharing. We're talking about your own thoughts and beliefs of yourself, what you're bringing to the relationship, and making sure that what you're bringing is positive about yourself and your own capable belief, and that you're doing that. And then John is sharing some thoughts about that. So John, you should be able to have your Bluetooth turned off on your phone, and then your mic is still muted on your computer. So I don't know if you just need to make sure that whatever mic source you have on your computer is not muted, because it's not allowing the sound to come through on those platforms. Yeah, let's just go the volume and we'll deal with the feedback so we get a good recording on both sides and everybody can hear. So if you'll just make sure that unit is turned off, and then if you can click the icon on StreamYard on the microphone and hit unmute mic, if that gives you an option. I don't know what. There you go. There you go. Now we can hear you again.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No. So go ahead. Back to your thought. We were talking about self-talk and, what you're bringing to the relationship based on your own perceptions of self and versus value for the other person.
Yeah. So going back to what I said, I think that relationships thrive in an atmosphere where our focus is primarily on what we can give, not what we can receive. And I'm a firm believer in giving what you need. It has been said that the person who is hurting the most, or the person who is needy the most for appreciation or recognition, is the one who needs to move first. And before we can hope to change another person, we need to make sure that we're working on ourselves. And I think oftentimes the finger gets pointed to the other person in the room, that they need to change first. They need to show me appreciation. They need to give to me before I'll recognize them. Well, that might feel right, but it just doesn't work. We need to be the change we want to see in our relationship and set a different tone.
I think that's a great point. And, because we're talking about the issue and this key point of determining value, our value, it has to be, we know that we bring it and we're giving it. And because it's who we want to be, not because what our partner is or is not doing. And that's kind of the first foundation. If we're feeling good about what we're bringing and what we're doing, then we can kind of move on to those other issues, right? We have to hold the highest opinion of ourselves, that we're worthy, valuable, and deserving. So we bring those qualities into the relationship. But I guess the question too, like our key point I want to jump to next is, have you had a conversation with your partner and communicated and openly shared what your needs, wants, and desires are? So if you're sitting there in your own mess thinking, man, I don't feel valued, I don't feel loved, I don't feel appreciated, does your partner know? Because we're not mind readers, right? We can't read the tea leaves. We can make guesses, but who wants to guess as to whether we're showing up in our relationship, right? John, how would you feel if your wife guessed what your needs were and that's how she took care of you?
Well, I think she does a lot of the time, to be honest, but I can't blame her for that. If she guesses what my needs are, it's probably because I haven't communicated very well what they actually are. So I'm going to take the responsibility for that. I do want to say that this is a conversation, and it's not just one conversation. It becomes a lifestyle in the way you manage and navigate your relationship. But it's one that's very difficult for most of us. We don't want, our instinct is not to ask what our partner needs or wants, to feel appreciated or validated, or just what they need in general. We don't want to ask that because we're afraid they might tell us. I think that that's our biggest fear. And if my partner tells me, if my wife tells me that she needs certain things, my default is to think, well, I need to fix all those things, or I need to meet all those needs. We're afraid of that conversation. But I want to encourage everybody that half of it is just listening. Being aware of our partner's needs and wants, it shifts the atmosphere in the relationship from one of, you don't know me, you have no idea what's going on with me, to, wow, you really do want to understand me and you're trying. And in that atmosphere, it's a lot easier to express value and appreciation for each other.
Love that. Love that. Yeah, we've got to ask, and we can't be afraid of what we're going to hear, right? Because it's not just about us knowing their needs, but that allows the turntable to go the other way and to share with them, let me share with you what my needs are, and that you can fulfill. And it's not a wish list. It's not to be served like a servant or a butler, but it's for them to support and bring out the best in you, in what you're facing and what your emotional, your physical, your spiritual, your intellectual, your intimacy, whatever all those different needs are in the moment. If you communicate them, you're giving them the opportunity to value you and bring what you need. And, John, another important thing I think that we've got to talk about is we all have seasonality in our relationships and in our own experience. So my needs today or this week may not be what I need next month because of something I'm facing. And if we're not keeping our partner up to speed and having the habit of getting those touch points and doing it, then they're still going to be falling behind and short. A question came in: what's the best way to have this sometimes challenging conversation? So John, what would you recommend to somebody that was saying, I need to have a conversation with my partner about my needs and their needs? What's the easy way to lead into that that's not going to get people defensive and have the wall go up?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's a great question, and I appreciate that somebody is asking how they might have this conversation. That's the first step, is to be intentional, to do it on purpose. But use some common sense. Do not. This is for everybody. Do not try to have this conversation at 10:30 at night while you're laying in bed and you're both tired from a long day. That's obviously a terrible time to ask. So as you do it on purpose, set a time and place that works for both of you when you have high emotional and mental energy to deal with what it might be a difficult conversation if you're not in the habit of doing so. And then there's no complicated answer, but it's not easy either. You just do it. You just do it. You just say, well, you agree upon a time and a place, and you have the conversation, and you work through whatever those things are. But make sure that if you're the one initiating this conversation, make sure that you set the example of what you want to receive by being a good listener. If you are a good listener, it's more likely that your partner will listen better too. So those are some suggestions.
Good advice. And to jump on that a little bit, I would say don't surprise your partner. Don't come out of the middle of nowhere and say, I got to talk about something deep, and here it is.
Right.
Much better to say, hey, there's some things I'd really love for us to talk about. When would be the best time for us to schedule it so we're both aware, we show up, and can be our best selves, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So I think you talked about specific time and place, and it's got to be good for both of you. Otherwise, the conversation is not going to bear the fruit that you would like it. And I think letting them know, and it's funny, I'm the kind of person, John, when my wife says, just the other night, she said, hey, there's some things I'd like to talk to you about. I used to be afraid when I heard that, because I would think, oh no, I messed up. I'm in trouble. I've fallen short. She's unhappy. And it would get me really stressed. I want to talk about it right then and there, whether the timing was right or wrong. And now, she made the mention to me the other night, right before dinner. It was just the two of us. Our son was at an activity after school. We had a great conversation over dinner about what she wanted to talk about. And, I wasn't afraid, and it was healthy and normal. So I think as you set this habit and repeat it, it becomes more of how you deal with things and how you approach stuff, and it can be a little easier. So I appreciate that. And John,
I like how you mentioned that you used to be afraid. I think that's a common experience. I think perspective is everything. We're afraid that we did something wrong. But if you change your perspective, if you can see that when our partner is bringing something to us, it's an opportunity for closer connection and a deeper understanding of them. Reframe how you see it, then you won't be afraid. Just want to add,
No doubt. I love that. And I'd love to go into kind of another point here. The quote no one has ever said. This is something I don't think anyone's ever said. I get too much gratitude and appreciation for all the good that I do for my partner and in my life. I don't think I've ever heard in all my coaching, John, and I don't know if you ever heard that in your practice. I've never heard someone say, they just love and appreciate me too much. They give me, I overflow with the gratitude they express to me all the time. And, you know, expressing gratitude and showing appreciation for the little and the big things that your partner does for you, whether it's making a meal, throwing out a compliment, recognizing your ability, success, achievements, that's a cultural thing. And if you're not feeling valued in your relationship, or you don't feel your partner's valuing you, how much of that gratitude and appreciation is being expressed in the relationship? How much are you? How many times a day are you praising or giving gratitude to your partner? Doesn't mean we should go around with a tick list saying, okay, I've done my 10 for the day, I'm done. But if you're not giving gratitude and appreciation to your partner several times a day, at least, that's a problem. And I think that a lot of people feel, one and done, like, hey, good job. Thanks. That was great. Thanks for dinner. And if it's not specific, you don't talk about the impact it has upon you, then you're missing the boat.
Yeah, I tried that out on my wife just this morning in preparation for this meeting today. I said, "Hun, great job," and she said, "For what?" And I had to think of something real quick. I'm still working on it, but I think we have to be specific. And my wife challenges me in those ways. It's very important.
Yeah, and I want to share a little analogy. Seeing the good in your spouse and speaking it. Thoughts of gratitude, appreciation, compliments, bolstering, supportive talk. It's like cash you never spend if you don't express it. So if a thought comes to you, oh, that was really nice. She's really sweet. He's really awesome for doing that. If you have those thoughts, but you're not communicating and expressing them to your partner, it's the same thing as having a big wad of cash in your pocket and starving because you don't go pay for the food to nourish you.
Sure.
So make sure that you're not leaving any goodness on the shelf, so to speak, and that you are out there pouring into your partner gratitude, appreciation, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, and we so easily do the opposite, don't we? Where we can find fault and criticize and express things we don't like. If we counted how many times we did that versus how many times we expressed gratitude, I think we would be in debt emotionally and relationally.
No doubt, no doubt. I mean, because if you think about it, probably 90%. I usually use the 80% rule, but I say 90% of what my wife does, maybe even 95%. The overwhelming majority is good, and I appreciate it. So for me to focus on those little nitpicking things, why do I want to focus and make our time together about what's wrong, as opposed to magnifying and putting front and center the good and what's right? And if you have a hard time expressing yourself verbally, love notes and letters, the written word, is a great way to receive gratitude. It might take a little bit more time. It's a bit more of an investment. But when you get a note of gratitude, of love, or appreciation from your partner, you not only do you get it in that moment, but you come back to it and you can keep it, and it lasts a lot longer. So, the written word is just as powerful, sometimes more than the spoken word. So I would encourage everybody to use those notes and letters. And I write, I have a chapter in my book, Kick-Ass Husband, Write Her a Letter. I would write letters to my wife when I was not traveling and I was in town on business, because she usually was the one going to the mailbox, and she'd get the mail and there'd be a letter from her husband, and she could read that in her own time. And it has such an impact on our psyche. And like I said, it stays around for a while, again and again and again. And it's something they can come back to.
Yes, speaking of psyche, just real quick, it's also very important that when we start to develop an atmosphere of appreciation in our relationships, that we get good at receiving. Because oftentimes when we're not used to hearing these things, we don't receive them well, and we might discount them or qualify them or just throw them to the ground. That's like receiving a present and throwing it in the trash. Both people feel terrible. And actually, research shows that whenever a compliment or word of affirmation or encouragement is given and it's received with thanks, that the serotonin levels of both people rises, and it stays that way. It completely changes the tone of your relationship to be a good receiver.
Love that. Yeah, giving is important, but receiving also is, and being willing to take that. John, I kind of want to relate some of the points we're talking about today to a story. About 2 years ago, my 100-year summer camp reunion and celebration. The camp had, not my 100-year, the camp had been around for 100 years. This was a Christian summer camp I went to as a child, was a counselor. And I got to go back and see people ranging from 17 or 18 years old that had been to camp all the way up into their 70s. So we had over 60 years of time of people's association with this camp that were there. That same weekend, while I'm off kind of having a guy's weekend and reminiscing and having fun, my wife was back at our home and we were having a tree trimmer come to the property. And it was one of those, it was a family member with a friend. And, you know, they were relying on us, my wife and my teenage son, to do a lot of the work to make this happen. I'm up having fun on my getaway weekend and she's back at the homestead, you know, hauling limbs and going to bed at night. I'm so tired. I'm so sore. Not only did I feel a little guilt, but I'm like, I got to do something. Right. So I sent her a text. And in that text, I said, here's the 10 things I love and appreciate most about you. And I sent it to her in the day. And she said, I'm working right now, but I can't wait to read this later tonight. She read it and then sent me a text and said, wow, you made my day. You know, for me to have this from you. And that turned into what we call at KCN, the Greatest Gift Challenge. And if you look over my shoulder here, I'll have to rotate the camera. If you look over my shoulder, there is an 8.5 by 10 frame of the 10 things that my wife loves and appreciates most about me. So a little on Valentine's Day later in the year, she did that for me. She took a form that we created saying the 10 things I love and appreciate about you most. She wrote them down and gave it to me. And that was the last gift she gave me on Valentine's Day. And it's framed on my desk and I read it. And it's hard for me not to cry every time I read it, right? Because she's telling me how she values me, how she appreciates me, and the impact that I've had upon her. So if anybody that's listening to us today, if you all want to go to MatthewPHoffman.com, you can get the Greatest Gift Challenge there. Download the PDF. I'd encourage you to write it down, put it in an envelope, and leave it or mail it to your partner, your spouse, so they can learn from you what are the 10 things that you love and appreciate about them most. And if that doesn't make them feel valued and treasured, I'm not sure what will. And that's just a kind of a quick story. We've covered a lot of ground, John, and talked about how did we determine our own value? How do we communicate and openly share our needs, wants, and desires? And how do we make sure that we're recognizing the good in the relationship and expressing it, not holding on to it? And, you know, if you want to learn more about how to do this in your relationship, you can listen to the Kick-Ass Couples podcast. My wife and I just celebrated our 100th episode a couple of weeks ago. We interview couples and talk about what they do that works in their relationship. We have special episodes. We talk about deep issues that affect us all. And if you are thinking that you would like a little help in your relationship because you'd like to take it to the next level or resolve those obstacles that you're feeling, I'm a coach. I'm a relationship coach. John is one of our elite relationship coaches. We have a team of great marriage, family therapists, and we come together. We meet you where we are. We work with couples and individuals. So if you'd like to learn more about how you can remove those obstacles in your relationship and find your own relationship nirvana and deepen and strengthen that relationship so it's as good as it can be, we'll do a free relationship assessment call. Go to the website, MatthewPHoffman.com, click on the link, set up an appointment, and I will talk to you about what we can do together to get you to where you want to be in that number one relationship. So, John, I got to thank you for showing up today and coming out. We do these every single Tuesday. We have a nooner with a guest. Sometimes I'm here on my own. I get to have my beautiful wife with me sometimes, and we're kind of exploring and talking about the key issues to making the relationships exactly what we want them to be. So if you're out there right now, if you have questions, you can throw a question at any time in the chat and we'll do our best to give you an answer. If you're watching a replay or recording of this, you can also send an email to info@kickasscouplesnation.com and either I or John or one of our coaches will get back to you and give you your feedback and answer your questions. Bill, glad to have you back with us, Bill. I love seeing that smiling mug. I know you're ear to ear. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you come back and join us again soon. And John, we want everybody to remember out there just one thing, and that's that happily ever after doesn't just happen. It is most definitely on purpose.
On purpose. That's right. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for joining us today. And KCN, We'll see you again soon.